Content is king. BATV signs content sharing partnership with Scene TV. Weekend Business Report starts right now. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Kenil Gale. Thanks for joining us this week. Business Access Television has signed a deal with Sportsmax's Scene TV that will expose viewers in North America to some of the station's best programs. More on that deal in a bit, but right now, here are some of the top news stories BATV brought you this week. The pension scheme for tourism workers should be a reality by the end of the year. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett made the announcement during his presentation to the sectoral debate in Parliament on Tuesday. He also said some $1 billion has been committed to ensure access to housing for tourism workers. Javon Keys reports.
Job security as well as access to affordable housing and a pension plan for persons employed in the tourism industry have always been hot-button issues. However, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says his ministry is working to fix those problems. In his sectoral presentation on Tuesday, Minister Bartlett said the long-awaited pension plan for tourism workers is on track and should be ready before year-end.
The tourism pension plan, Mr. Speaker, is very much on track. And I'm pleased to say, Mr. Speaker, that the CPC has given us the draft now. So we are ready, hopefully, to come to Parliament with the bill in the middle of the year or so. And hopefully by October, we will have this revolutionary tourism pension plan for the people of this great industry.
Minister Bartlett said housing is also another area of major concern, as almost 90% of workers cannot access housing through the National Housing Trust, NHT. That is why the ministry has put forward $1 billion over the next 5 years to help provide housing solutions.
Housing is a key part of the concerns for us in the ministry, and as it relates to tourism workers. We know the problem. When we did the research, we found, Mr. Speaker, that more than 88% of the workers in the industry cannot even access NHT housing solutions. We have, Mr. Speaker, have put $1 billion over the next 5 years to assist tourism workers to enable them access different types of solutions through the Housing Agency of Jamaica.
Meanwhile, the nature of the tourism sector has been such that workers are usually employed on contract for seasonal work. However, the minister said due to the continued increase in arrivals, they hope to revisit the tourism labor market employment structure as workers are needed throughout the year.
Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, says when Jamaica eventually leaves the IMF, there will be the need for institutional framework to guide the country on a continued growth path. Here's more.
The pursuit of economic independence, the maintenance of the pursuit of economic expansion for all, and the protection of the vulnerable.
These, the Minister of Finance and the Public Service says, are the overarching principles guiding his ministry in its thrust towards economic independence. However, as the country hopes to move to this stage, he knows that this does not necessarily mean an end to the relationship between the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and Jamaica.
Economic independence is not independence from the IMF. That would be a very shallow interpretation. And frankly, it would be an unambitious interpretation. The IMF has been a valuable partner to Jamaica, and Jamaica has benefited from the monetary, fiscal, and structural reforms across consecutive administrations.
Minister Clark says the independence sought will require the implementation of local policies to better manage and utilize finances. He notes that this independence does not mean there will not be interdependence, especially with regards to trade between Jamaica and other states.
Similarly, economic independence is not the freedom to do whatever you want. It is about implementing the right policies on our own. Economic independence is not an absence of interdependence. Jamaica is a small, open economy where trade accounts for about 60% of GDP. Interdependence is a permanent feature of Jamaican life.
He says it will require Jamaica to move away from depending on creditors and lending agencies to meet the country's basic needs.
Economic independence, however, is among things not being dependent on creditors for our basic needs. It requires policymaking that does not just consider today, but considers tomorrow. Economic independence requires long-term thinking.
The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, and the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, say the Jamaican economy is expected to see some fallout in the oil, mining, and quarrying industries for this fiscal year because of U.S. sanctions on Iran and Russia. Jamila Maitland reports.
Both the Bank of Jamaica BOJ and the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ are warning that major challenges in oil prices could throw off projections for the fiscal year. BOJ's Governor Brian Winter says projections were based on the price of oil being around $56 per barrel for this fiscal year. But with recent market volatility seeing prices edging close to $71 per barrel, the local economy may be in for some rough times.
It was in the past and it would be so in the future. But I would make one point that in terms of thinking about the protection for the overall economy or the buffers that allow the economy to be able to weather any sharp change in the oil price, and this change is not what I would not include in that. Big as it is, this is not the shock that we have to be worried about. It's when it goes much more and it does it suddenly and stays there. We haven't seen that yet. The geopolitical situation in the world, the various things we've all been seeing on the front lines have a lot to do with what's going to happen with the oil price, and we watch that with it remains as an important risk to all projections, and indeed a risk to Jamaica's own economic livelihood, its welfare.
However, he says the recent U.S. sanctions on Russia may pose a challenge to the industry, citing that UC Rusal has controlling interest in the Windalco alumina refinery.
There is also the potential fallout in mining and quarrying industry consequent on the U.S. sanctions on selected Russian oligarchs. What we are seeing in the news, the developments are ongoing. We know that the effective date of sanctions has been postponed, as announced, until October 2018. We know stakeholder deliberations continue to mitigate any possible negative impact of the sanctions on the industry and the economy.
It has since been reported that the owner of UC Rusal, Oleg Deripaska, has agreed to reduce his controlling interest from 70% to under 50%, one which satisfies the U.S. requirement for removing the sanctions against UC Rusal.
Moving on now, it's a deal that will expand Business Access TV's reach into North America. The company entered into a content-sharing partnership with Sportsmax's Scene TV this week. Already broadcasting to some 14 countries in the Caribbean, Business Access Television's Managing Director Garth Walker says getting the station's content to North America was the next logical step.
The main aspect of this partnership is really to expand our reach. I mean, we have been creating compelling content for about 2 years now, and we are branching out into the Caribbean. An opportunity came up to partner with Sportsmax/Scene to enter the diaspora through Canada and North America, so we definitely capitalize on it.
Scene TV is owned by Sportsmax, and CEO Oliver McIntosh says the partnership with Business Access fits well into efforts to diversify the station's offerings.
Part of the conceptualization of Scene TV was about bringing quality programming from all genres to the Caribbean diaspora and to the international market. And we've done that thus far with our sports content, we've done it with our general entertainment, and now this fits perfectly in as a complementary piece of content for us. We've seen the great work that Business Access has done over the years here in Jamaica and around the Caribbean. So this now will hopefully, for us, drive more attention towards Scene and provide more quality programming for our audience.
He says the new programs that will be obtained from Business Access TV will give Scene the platform to leverage new opportunities to capture new segments of the market.
For those of us who have seen what Business Access has done here in Jamaica, not only is the quality of the content good, but the quality of the promotion and the marketing is good. So we would like to leverage off of that into the international markets and utilize that to promote the channel and promote the business access content on scene to the audience that we already have and the audience that we want to pick up on. So whether it is the corporate interviews, the corporate features, everything that's happening here in the business community, the news programs, we want to pick up on that to market that to our international audience.
The partnership with Business Access will allow Scene to capitalize on the amount of the content that Business Access has been producing throughout Jamaica over the last couple of years. So we'll be taking that content and we'll be putting it on Scene. Up to 4 hours of content daily will be taken from Business Access and put on Scene. This will add a significant value to the Scene brand and also to Business Access. What we'll be doing, we'll be interspersing the content throughout the programming timeline of Scene, right? So there'll be content in prime time, morning time, based on we'll be putting content where people want to see it, right? So depending on the content that we're getting from Business Access, we'll be putting it into slots that is appropriate for those content.
Scene TV will expose Business Access's content to millions of people living in North America.
Scene TV started, we launched in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, with Cablevision, which is now Fios Optimum, and then spread into Canada on Rogers Cable and Bell Media, and then we went nationwide in the US on Verizon. So we continue to build our audience. We're soon to launch our own app where viewers can view the Scene channel on a streaming basis. So we continue to roll it out. We're hoping to get some of the larger of the cable companies in North America on board as well. But we have a pretty sizable audience now, especially in the tri-state area. For us, what will complete that is really getting on the eastern seaboard, where a lot of the Caribbean diaspora currently live.
What you'll find now is that the diaspora looking on persons who want to know what's happening in Jamaica, they'll have an opportunity. And outside of Jamaica, they'll be able to also access Caribbean content. Because we have plans to regionalize the brand. So persons that accessing Business Access TV and various programs will have an opportunity to get a full, or they'll be fully exposed to exactly what's happening both domestically in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean on a whole.
Oliver McIntosh says that the partnership will be mutually beneficial.
We establish partnerships. We don't look at it as us taking from a partner and then the partner just getting the distribution alone and that's it. So we'll be looking to develop content together. We'll be looking at how we can develop programming together. We'll be looking at how we can co-market into North America and Canada and hopefully further outside into the UK and Asia as well. So we don't look at partnerships as simply give us and we'll give back you. No, it's a working partnership. So we assume that we're going to be working a lot more with Business Access TV.
The partnership will also see opportunities for both companies to increase revenue streams.
The deal will also allow us to capitalize on advertisement within the territories that we broadcast, and will also allow us between Scene and Business Access to increase their revenue, the revenue potential of the brands throughout these territories.
So basically, you've entered into a revenue sharing partnership?
A revenue share partnership. It's a 60-40 split between both entities.
Outside of getting our content and expanding the BATV brand, the revenue opportunity is always welcoming. Any opportunity for us to earn hard currency, we definitely want to take up that opportunity as well.
Company news comes up next, then later. Uber takes flight. The ride-hailing company unveils plans for its air taxi service. More Wbr after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. Here's Javon Keys with this week's company news.
The Wasinka Group recorded revenues for the first quarter of $5.82 billion, representing an increase of 13.5% over the $5.13 billion achieved in the corresponding quarter of the previous year. The group says the third quarter normally represents lower demand for beverages due to the cooler climate in the January to March period, which results in lower production and inefficient overhead absorption as compared to periods of higher demand. Meanwhile, Wasinka says the construction of its cold storage facilities continues, and the expectation is now for completion at the end of the fourth quarter, which should result result in reduced operating costs and improved service levels. The Grace Kennedy Group says it achieved revenues of $24.9 billion during the 2018 first quarter, representing an increase of 5.1% or 1.2 billion Jamaican dollars over the corresponding period in 2017. The food trading segment grew in both revenue and pre-tax profit when compared to the corresponding period in 2017 due to improved performance in both the company's Jamaican and international foods businesses. Meanwhile, worldwide advertising campaign for the 2018 Flavor with a Beat was successfully launched during the quarter and is being rolled out internationally. Flavor with a Beat will see a refreshed look and feel throughout all of Grace Foods' communication channels and activities. The campaign is targeted at the company's Jamaican consumers, Caribbean diaspora community and mainstream audiences in its international markets who enjoy Jamaican culture and food. Air conditioning and engineering company CAC 2000 Limited has listed its preference shares on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. The offer, which was oversubscribed, raised 200 million Jamaican dollars for the company. The IPO, which was managed by Victoria Mutual Wealth Management, is the fund manager's fourth foray with CAC 2000 at raising funds following successful private placements in 2013 and 2014 and an initial public offering in 2015.
Thanks, Javon. Let's now take a look at the closing numbers from the major stock markets around the world. When we come back, more of the top news stories BATV brought you this week, so stay with us. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. More news now. Opposition spokesperson on industry investment and competitiveness, Peter Bunting, says in order for Jamaica to achieve more sustained growth, the government should focus on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises.
Peter Bunting says the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, can be catalysts for growth. He explained that Jamaica can take some lessons from developed countries like Germany, where MSMEs contribute significantly to development.
They can support innovation, competitiveness, wealth creation, and social stability. But right now, the MSME sector is highly vulnerable and not contributing its full potential to the growth of the economy.
Mr. Bunting cites crime, education, an insufficient public sector, and dual taxation compliance as factors preventing MSMEs from growing. He claims a number of MSMEs are forced into informal economy because of the heavy tax burden.
I spoke with a senior chartered accountant, and by his estimate, any business that didn't have a turnover of at least $3 million per month, a typical business, could not manage all the compliance, the tax compliance requirements. They just couldn't do it. And yet, our current requirement for GCT registration is $3 million a year, or about $250,000 a month. Similarly, so they have to be informal. Similarly, individuals enjoy a $1.5 million tax-free income threshold, while a small company just set up doesn't have the same threshold, therefore a discouraging formality.
Meanwhile, the opposition spokesman wants the GCT turnover registration to be increased so that MSMEs can contribute.
I've been in discussions with the Minister of Finance over the last couple of weeks on this issue, and he agrees with me in principle, not to the 36 million threshold, but to raising it from the 3 million threshold. Because this is an intuitive figure that I'm sharing here. So this is not anything that I'm suggesting should be etched in stone. I've just based on the discussion with a chartered accountant. But he can get the figures in the various categories and buckets from the tax administration see what is the optimal point to balance the giving up of revenue with removing the bureaucracy for these companies.
The free Wi-Fi on Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC buses promised by Growth Tech Limited is one step closer to reality. The company inked a deal with Digicel on Wednesday, which should see JUTC passengers accessing free Wi-Fi on buses come next month.
450 JUTC buses will have Wi-Fi installed by the end of June. The move fits in with the government's effort to make Kingston a smart city. The initiative is being undertaken by technology group Growth Tech Limited. CEO Neil Lawrence says hundreds of Jamaicans will now have access to the internet on the go, which will allow them to conduct business during their everyday commute.
As you know, a lot of Jamaicans today have smartphones and aren't able to leverage data services as much as they'd like to, primarily because of other financial obligations. So what this does is puts connectivity in the hands of more Jamaicans and brings us to a more digital society.
Growth Tech signed a deal with Digicel, which will see customers getting access to the telecom's giant superfast LTE network.
Elements. So it will help Jamaicans to keep connected, so they can handle their whatever business they need to do, keep connected with loved ones, etc. And at the same time, it will also help the economy as it relates to being that new digital society, that new move to get us to that level.
With technology being a major economic driver, the Growth Tech CEO says the investment will undoubtedly have a positive impact on the Jamaican economy.
So we're definitely excited about that, and what Growth Tech will do in other areas is obviously play its part to improve Jamaica as a whole. And as you know, these buses and wherever we put our products or our services will definitely be also in the Kingston area. So how better to put it than if we can make the entire Kingston, a smart city and move to other parishes as we go along.
He says the company has similar systems in tour buses across the island, and he's encouraging the government to make the entire Jamaica smart.
Come August, students of the University of the West Indies Mona campus will be paying more for tuition. Here's Javon Keys with that story.
A 2.5% tuition increase is coming for students who opt to do sponsored programs. These are programs which see the government footing 80% of the tuition cost. The UWI Mona was initially proposing a 4% increase. However, the campus's student leadership pushed back. UWI Mona Guild President Shane Grant says while they had hoped for no increase, they managed to come to an agreement for the new tuition structure.
At 2.5%, students will have an increase of $6,894, which will be equal to $282,657. And that's the programs that are not MBBS. The persons who are doing MBBS at 2.5 will see an increase of $15,615.13, and that is equal to $640,224. So that will be the exact cost for those programs come academic year 2018-2019.
That's up from the $275,000 paid by most students registered in sponsored programs for this academic year. With the proposed increase, the Mona campus is the only one to have requested a tuition hike for the upcoming academic year.
If it is that you're supposed to increase that 4%, that would be an increase of $24,980 something. That's almost $25,000 increase. Again, we have asked for no. I don't think my asking for no or 0% increase was the only thing that gave us an opportunity to have it reduced. The principal also supported my position that it is too much of an increase, too much ask of the students here at Mona campus. It is not a fair ask.
Meanwhile, the Guild president is arguing that the issue of funding education must be looked at from a policy perspective, and other creative ways could also be sought, which could cover the cost for all levels.
A number of it has to do with the policies that come from the government, and I'd suggest that we think about funding education in the way that we look at contributions to NHT. So your tax on NHT goes directly to NHT. Your education tax doesn't go directly to education. If your education tax goes directly to education, then chances are the government will be able to not only fund education fully at the tertiary education, but they can fund at the lower levels as well.
When we come back, it's a bird, it's a plane. It's actually Uber's new taxi service. We'll find out more about that after the break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. Are you tired of bumper-to-bumper traffic? Well, Uber Air might have a solution. The ride-hailing company wants to take passengers to the skies.
We think cities are going to go vertical in terms of transportation, and we want to make that a reality. So
Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi says this model of an air taxi shows the company's vision for the future of transportation. It's a world where passengers request an Uber Air on their phone and then head to these rooftop skyports where the aircraft take off.
We want to create the network around those vehicles so that regular people can take these taxis in the air for longer distances when they want to avoid traffic at affordable prices.
It's going to be really, really community friendly. And
Jeff Holden is Uber's chief product officer.
So it's using these stacked, what they call stacked rotors, to create vertical lift. So the thing lifts up kind of like a helicopter, but then when it gets to the right altitude, this rotor here kicks on. It actually creates forward thrust, and it uses the wings for lift.
Holden says they're still in the design phase. Unlike a helicopter, this aircraft will have clusters of small propellers and run on electricity, making it quieter, more efficient, and more affordable. Although piloted at first, the goal is for the flying taxis to become autonomous. But questions remain about how they will guarantee safety. Uber also says for the program to become profitable, it will need to move beyond a niche market.
One of the key tenets of this technology is for us to have 4 riders in each vehicle, so that essentially the cost per ride goes down. The combination of mass market and sharing, which is really what Uber is all about, can bring this to the masses, can make it affordable for normal people.
And that's where we leave things this week. On behalf of the entire Weekend Business Report team, I'm Keneal. See you next time.